In the 2007 movie The Lookout, the character played by Jeff Daniels tells another character, "Everything is a story. Stories help us make sense of the world." Welcome to the next installment of Crucify Your Mind, a metaphysical interpretation of the final week of Jesus' life through the lens of the lyrics of the songs Crucify by Tori Amos and Crucify Your Mind by Detroit's own Rodriguez. My name is Michael Capato, and I'm a Unity New Thought minister in Detroit. Every year during this special week, people from around the globe, from every walk of life and faith persuasion, bear witness to one of the most deeply profound, moving, and significant stories in our collective history. The story of Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem, his confrontation with and by the religious leaders of the land, his ultimate betrayal, the final intimate moments with his disciples, his arrest, his trial and crucifixion, and ultimately his glorious resurrection, to me compresses every other of Jesus' teachings into one intense cramming session for the disciples and for us as well. I've said it many times, probably as long as I've been a minister, that if the Gospels are the textbook for spiritual living, then the story of Holy Week is the Cliff Notes version, or maybe the executive summary. I believe wholeheartedly that this story is not only about Jesus, but us too. I believe it helps us to make sense of our world as well. That is why, for good reason, we call it the greatest story ever told. And so we come to Good Friday, the day that Jesus, having been betrayed by Judas with a kiss and arrested, is brought before Pilate and the people and put on trial, with the ultimate punishment, as we know, death by crucifixion, considered one of the slowest and most excruciatingly painful ways to die. Many have wondered why the word good is attached to such a dark day in our collective psyches. A day when many in the world, from all walks of life, collectively mourn the seemingly senseless murder of the one sent by God to teach love. I heard recently that it was probably actually a mistranslation from the German that led to this seemingly ironic moniker, that what was originally known as God's Friday or Gottes Freitag, excuse my attempt at German, got miscopied by someone as Guter Freitag, or Good Friday. So God becomes supplanted by good. Regardless of whether it is true or not, for most of the Christian world, this is a day looked at as anything but good. Rather, it's seen as a day of sorrowful reflection as his followers gaze upon the cross and reflect upon his brutal agony and his earthly death. And it's true when we approach the life of Jesus as is recorded in the Gospels. Then the crucifixion of Jesus does appear to be a very tragic and unjust event that makes us almost unbearably sad and makes us question being a member of a race that would do such a thing to such a person. The King James Version of the Bible quotes Jesus as saying during the crucifixion experience in Matthew 27:46 and Mark 15:34, my God, why have you forsaken me?" However, George Lamza, in his translation of the Gospels from the Aramaic language that I refer to quite often, suggests that this is actually a mistranslation. In the Lamza Bible, Jesus says, "It is for this purpose that I was born." This suggests that Jesus was fully aware that this was his great moment. It was the moment he was waiting and preparing for all his life. For this purpose I was born. I've said it through the course of this series that Jesus, perhaps from his entire life, or at least from before he entered Jerusalem at the start of the week, that he knew his earthly existence was coming to an end, and that this week was one last cramming session for the disciples and for humanity as well. In the words of the Rodriguez song, Crucify Your Mind, Soon you'll know I'll leave you, and I'll never look behind, because I was born for the purpose that crucifies your mind. Just like an Olympic athlete being asked how they feel before stepping to the starting line and saying, "This is the moment I've been training for all my life," this was the case for Jesus, and is the case in every moment of our life too, when we realize that whatever we're going through, we are not to shrink from any situation or circumstance that seems to overwhelm us. It's in such moments we are to remember who we are spiritually, that we are made in the image and likeness of God. When we see from this vantage point that even despite the problem, we too can know that for this purpose I was born. So I think you can see, metaphysically, I don't view the crucifixion of Jesus as something sad, but as a step toward a great victory. In its purest form, Jesus is telling us the message of the crucifixion is perfectly clear. No matter what you are going through, no matter how dark it seems, no matter what the negative voices in your head might say, you got this. We got this together. We can now look at the crucifixion of Jesus in an entirely different way and get an entirely new meaning from it. Not a reason for sadness, not an unjust set of circumstances forced upon a good person, but an important part of the plan that Jesus himself formulated for his own life. I think Jesus was prepared for everything that occurred in his life. And the crucifixion is something that he deliberately went through for the same reason that he went through every other experience, to teach us lessons in truth to help us realize our oneness with God. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, described the crucifixion as the crossing out in consciousness of certain errors that have become fixed states of mind. The giving up of the whole personality in order that the Christ mind may be expressed to its fullness. In other words, the crucifixion experience isn't a tragedy, but an opportunity to go beyond our self-imposed boundaries and limited thinking and coping behaviors that no longer serve us, and instead see this as an opportunity for the highest and best within us to shine as never before. The crucifixion symbolizes any experience in our life that is an opportunity for us to cross out or get rid of one more human error, one more bit of stinking thinking that keeps us separated from God and keeps us stuck in misery. Crucifixion type situations usually appear as moments of some sort of change around us. And we know change is usually uncomfortable, if not downright scary. The changes usually occur in one of three places: the physical body, in our position in the world, and in our relationships with other people. They can take the form of a serious problem or of a painful experience. Sometimes they come to us as a happy event, but in any case, we're given an opportunity to get rid of or crossing out some limiting belief or self-defeating behavior. You know, in a quick example, in a happy situation like a party or somebody giving you a gift or a compliment, us inside thinking that we really don't deserve it. That's an example of thinking that we can cross out even in a happy situation. Now, just like I've said before, there is so much metaphysical richness in the stories this week, and the elements within the trial and crucifixion are no exceptions. There are so many details that can be approached and analyzed that this video could actually be several parts long. Instead, let's look at a few key metaphysical points and see how the crucifixion story can be made meaningful in our own lives. So let's first revisit Pontius Pilate, who we met at the beginning of the week. Pilate, at the trial of Jesus, symbolizes the external circumstances that at times seem overwhelming. Pilate thinks he has power over Jesus, and he asks Jesus several questions. However, Jesus' response is essentially that the power does not lie with Pontius Pilate, but with God. It didn't matter what Pontius Pilate did, and ultimately he decided that he didn't want to be bothered, so he washed his hands of the whole deal. Jesus in that moment was demonstrating that no circumstance, no external authority figures have any higher power over him. The place where Jesus was crucified, Golgotha, or the place of the skull, metaphysically represents that place in our crucifixion experience where we are crossing out answers, solutions to problems, and dysfunctional coping mechanisms that originated purely up in the intellect. Instead of the intellect, we're tapping into God-mind through prayer, meditation, learning to cultivate that still small voice, or finally just simply learning to truly trust our gut. During his crucifixion, Jesus gave us 7 statements. These statements are contained in scattered form among all 4 Gospels, 3 from Luke, 3 from John, and 1 that is found in both Mark and Matthew. They come from different oral traditions, since the Gospels weren't written until between 25 and 60 years after the events they describe. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, from Luke 23:34. Inner forgiveness is the mightiest of spiritual acts. Without it, nothing in the nature of real spiritual progress can be achieved. Jesus made this the first of his 7 statements because of its primary importance. We need, above all, to learn to forgive ourselves. Today you will be in paradise, Luke 23:43. Jesus told us about paradise many times in his teachings, but somehow they came to be misconstrued to mean some place we go after we die. But Jesus said many times that the kingdom of heaven was both within us and all around us. In fact, in the non-canon Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, the kingdom of heaven is spread upon the earth and people do not see it. So, basically, metaphysically, paradise is a name given to a here and now consciousness of being in oneness with God. It is being in the present moment. It's the power of now. Jesus spoke those words to one of the thieves being crucified with him. Charles Fillmore wrote that these 2 thieves symbolize past and future. Memories of the past can rob us. Anxiety about the future can rob us of our joy too. But spiritual awareness never robs us, but rather gives us strength and protection. The thief to whom Jesus spoke represents the future. What does a spiritual awareness in us say about our future? Does it tell us to fear it? Does it urge us to protect ourselves from it? No. Spiritual awareness says to our future, today you will be with me in paradise. In other words, we don't need to stress out about the future. Instead, trust and have faith that all will work out. Next is, woman, behold your son. Behold your mother. John 19:26 and 27. These words were spoken to Mary and, according to tradition, to the disciple John. Literally, Mary and John were not mother and son, but Jesus was speaking from a level of the highest understanding concerning the truth of human relationships. One of the greatest realizations that can come is of our true relationship to every other human being. Whatever biological ties may exist, the metaphysical and spiritual ties are stronger and much more important. Like another song we know, in spirit, we are family. And when we hold that awareness that everyone we share this planet with is part of our one human family, then we come to realize that the course of actions we choose has the potential to cause harm or to heal. You know, just as you love and wouldn't intentionally hurt your mother or sister or those in your same household, operating from this awareness means that you treat everybody on your earthly household the same way too. Next comes, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Mark 15:34. Now, as I mentioned earlier, George Lamb's Bible states that this is a mistranslation from the Aramaic. But sticking to this more traditional version, Jesus is here once again teaching by making himself an example. Notice the statement is a question. Jesus was probably not asking the question for his own sake, because he knew the truth, that God was always with him. But he spoke the question to show us what is often in our own hearts in times of crisis. It's not uncommon in these moments to feel separated from God, even when we know better. The next line is, I thirst. That's from John 19:28. Jesus had previously taught, ask and you will receive. Here, he gives us an example of practicing what he preached. The statement was immediately followed by the meeting of that need. Jesus was given a sponge soaked with a mixture of vinegar and gall or myrrh, a soothing drink. There are times when a person finds himself in a situation where things look hopeless. During such times, he will feel an overpowering thirst for answers or for simple comfort. So Jesus said, ask and you will receive. The next line is, it is finished. John 19:30. One of the most difficult lessons many people have to learn to recognize is when something or someone has fulfilled its role in our life, especially if it or they no longer serve us. Once we've learned the lessons of our painful experiences, we need to let them go and move on. We should hold no grudges, nurse no hurt feelings, carry no unhappy memories. If it is finished, let it go. The work is done. So we should let the past bury the past. As I repeatedly have said, the story of this week, from the entry in Jerusalem all the way to this moment on the cross, is not just Jesus's, but our story as well. And as Jeff Daniels said, stories help us make sense of the world. As part of a Good Friday service at his church several years ago, United Church of Christ minister Reverend James Burko offered what, in all honesty, is a metaphysical reflection on the crucifixion experience in its own right. Changing the focus, as someone who posted this on Facebook wrote, of the passion narrative to one of personal contemplation, transformation, and growth, instead of just somebody else's transaction a long time ago. They further wrote, the question is always, what would Jesus do? But should it more properly be about, what would we do? So as we continue on this Good Friday, I invite you now to turn today's story into your own. And I invite you to reflect on these questions that have been paired with the steps Jesus took on that fateful and faith-filled day as he carried his cross down the Via Dolorosa, the sorrowful way. Jesus is condemned to death. Whom do you blame for the ways in which you suffer? In what ways does your blaming and condemnation of others make you suffer more, as well as to cause them hurt and harm? The cross is laid upon him. What cross do you carry through life? When has it become too heavy for you to bear? Have you asked for help in removing it from God, from others? His first fall. What is the stone that makes you stumble and fall? What is it like to be humbled? How can your stumbling stone be transformed into the foundation of a new and better life for you and others? He meets his mother. What unfinished business do you have with your parents or with your children? If this was your last chance to communicate, what would you say to your parent, child, or other family member who you love and are estranged from? Simon the Cyrene is made to bear the cross. What crosses are you asked to carry for others? Do you do so willingly or grudgingly? Does taking up their crosses help them or hurt them even more? Who carries the cross for you? Friends, family, co-workers, others? His second fall. What hurts have you experienced both physically and emotionally that leave you vulnerable and more hurt? Have you chosen to hide or excessively protect yourself from further suffering? Or have you chosen to take the chance of being hurt again? He meets the women of Jerusalem. What is your place in history? How do you and how can you make a difference in the unfolding human destiny? He is stripped of his garments. What part of your life do you want to keep undercover? In what ways have you made light, downplayed, or disrespecting the suffering of yourself or others? Remember, as my mom said, and I talked about in the first video, we all have our crosses to bear. He is crucified. When have you lost God? And when have you been closest to God? Has there ever been a time when both are true at the same moment? He dies on the cross. What part of you has died? What part of your life is dying? And what new life is emerging from these deaths? His body is taken down from the cross. When have you been served profoundly by people who have helped you in secret, with no thought of reward or even thanks? What thankless, hard tasks are you asked to do for the sake of others? Are you willing to do them without recognition or reward? When is it appropriate to expect thanks and reward for your good work? And when does public acknowledgement just get in the way of you being of service? His body is laid in the tomb. What part of your life is entombed, on hold, unseen? What part is dead to the world and to yourself? What would happen if that part of your life was transformed and brought back to life in a new way? There's an old saying, you can't have Easter without Good Friday. And as Tori Amos sang, you got to have your suffering so that you can have your cross. Our Holy Week journey is just about done. Easter will soon be upon us with the ultimate reason for this all, including the crucifixion. The resurrection, where we like Jesus will arise like a phoenix once again, reborn. And with that, we'll leave it there for today. If you're liking these videos, please like and share them. I'm not doing these to sell a book, nor am I asking for money. I'm doing these to help you all find some peace and joy during these trying days, and to hopefully give you some ideas and tools and share some approaches to spirituality and religion that you may not be hip to, that may help you on your own spiritual journey. And above all, I want to help make this sacred week more meaningful, more personal for you. So until tomorrow, may you and yours feel the loving presence of the God of your understanding. Goodbye. I suck at this one. I hate this part. I can never do a good ending. I stand there like an idiot.